Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching The Watchmen. We don't do this episode often, it's a kind of, not a regular thing, we've got a schedule, but we're going slowly through Watchmen, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen primarily, going issue by issue. But it's wonderful what's happened is when we've done the show, a sequel has came out on DC, so inevitably we have to review it with some smirk, with some mirth, with some honesty. But yeah, Doomsday Clock is of course what I'm talking about by Geoff Johns, and it is never myself. I am as ever welcomed by my good friend, my co-host Deff. How's it going, man?
Ground control to Major Tom. Come on, Tom. How are you doing? I'm good. It's been a bit of a crazy month for me. Last time we were recording, I actually got a phone call. Like my phone was going crazy off my grandma, and we'll call her Nana. She rang to tell me that my granddad had went into hospital, and he passed away the week after. And then we've just got his funeral out the way. I know it's a sad way to start the show, but honestly, he had a really, really peaceful death. And it was really nice, and his funeral was great. He was a bit of a comedian.
Right.
The funeral was a bit like the comedians because we all stood around and thought about the time that he shot that pregnant Vietnamese woman. Fucking hell, Tom. But yeah, no, really, really. So just want to dedicate this episode to Billy Bruce, they called him. But just been a bit of a crazy month, which is why we're a bit late on the episode because, for one, I've got a lot of stuff going on. I don't know about you, Tom, but I had a lot of stuff going on, and I don't really like the comic, so I'm not exactly like, look, Nana, I know I'm meant to be coming to the funeral today, but Doomsday Clock 3's just come out, so fuck yous, you know what I mean?
And I should say, it's not
Granddad who?
We've gone back, we've done the Killing Joke in between, and check out our earlier editions of Doomsday Clock as well. We've been following the story with everyone else. Def, I don't know if you heard, quite controversially, the comic is going bi-monthly, so now it's every 2 months rather than every one, which means Doomsday Clock will finish July 2019. It
is fucking controversial, mate, because I can't be arsed.
That's so long. It bends time, like Duncan Manhattan himself, the Tachyons.
Yeah, well, they must be confident that the story's like...
It should be
honestly,
done.
I really don't like when stories go bi-monthly.
Yeah.
The Batman run recently did it at the start of Rebirth, and I think it's massively affected like the care that's given to those stories. A lot of the stuff doesn't really feel like it gets the chance to properly capitalize. Like one of my biggest criticisms of Tom King, who's doing the current run, is his arcs build towards something, and then the ends kind of like... It doesn't feel as grandiose as it should be. So yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, to be honest.
No, it's
just get it out there. Just get rid of it.
I don't understand. Like, it's like, I don't know. Compare it to TV, compare it to Netflix. You write your first season and it gets made. But in comics, I don't know how widely spread it is, but it's odd to me that they didn't just write this whole thing. This is something that's going to sell. It's a Watchmen sequel. When this comes out in paperback, when this comes out in hardback, it's going to be huge. A Watchmen thing that people in Waterstones can buy. Get it out.
Yeah, it's weird. But it's just, I don't know what they're doing.
Come on.
We're saying it as a negative, but it might not be. It
It's a sort of blessing.
we're just always finding any way to slag them off. Oh, he thinks he can release 2 a month now, does he?
Yeah.
Who does he think he is? No, I mean, if it's fine if he wants to do that.
And I should say, a huge thanks to the people that get in touch with the show as well via email, watchingthewatchmenpod@gmail.com. We get some great emails. The first one's from Ian Kim. He says, so while looking for people's thoughts on Doomsday Clock 2, I found your podcast on the comic book subreddit, and it's pretty fucking good so far, dude. I think you'll be growing into something big as time goes by. One thing to note is how refreshing it is to listen to an intelligent discussion on the Doomsday Clock issues, and even recently with a Killing Joke review. For example, I tuned into your Doomsday 2 review, and I expect it to be your obnoxious thumbnail generic YouTube reviewer who reviews a story by explaining synopsis and nothing more and nothing less. The usual 1 mil subscriber type of YouTube. But nope, you guys completely went in depth, panel by panel, and gave every little piece of info you have. Your podcast is some fucking awesome stuff, man. I just wanted to send a congratulatory email and hope you guys become bigger as you go on. Keep up the good shit, dudes. I mean, shout out Ian.
Yeah, are you sure you didn't write that email, Tom?
It's amazingly fawning. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, I like how he says we don't have 1 million subscribers, just rubbing it in.
Yeah, so few.
But yeah, honestly, really, really appreciate emails like that. It does make it worth it. Yeah, so it's brilliant.
Yeah, he says in the second email as well, I won't read the whole thing, but
we are pretty obnoxious though, Tom, especially me, to be fair. I've had comments on it in the past.
On other videos, on Batman countdowns.
Yeah.
One of the things that he says that I liked, Ian, in the second email, the one thing that clicked so well was how you two do not give a rat's ass about Geoff Johns.
Yeah, which I actually kind of do regret because I do genuinely like him as a writer. Like, I think he is really good. It's just this project might either be too close to me or he might be shit. I really can't tell whether it is just my opinion or he's went bad. But yeah, I do like the guy. But fuck Geoff Johns. I'm never getting a job at DC. I'm all Marvel now anyway, Tom.
I saw you change.
I've been buying loads and loads and loads of Marvel comics recently. But yeah, fuck the lads.
I actually turned the other way. I remember when I was younger, I was like, Marvel, fuck DC, it's bland, whatever. But when I started actually reading stuff, I found I preferred DC. I think it's more of a writer's medium.
Yeah, definitely. DC as a whole are better for graphic novels. Like, you can just list off the amount of classic graphic novels that DC
Animal
have done.
Man.
Exactly, that's
Alaska
the first
Boy.
one that springs to mind. And not just because you're doing it alphabetically.
Right.
But yeah, they've had absolutely classics. And I did kind of struggle when I was starting off, like, with comics to really think what Marvel had done. In terms of classics. I mean, you've got the death of Gwen Stacy. You've got a couple of X-Men books that are really highly regarded. Civil War, obviously. But there's not ones that really have the esteem that something like a Watchmen or a Dark Knight Returns or a Killing Joke does. There's not things that are regarded that highly. They're not winning, like, Time Magazine awards.
For Secret Wars, no, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not going down.
That's a secret, so no one knows about it, do they?
No. Shout out the Ultimates, that dated series. Like, some of it I don't think has gone so well. David gets in touch as well via email. He says, great episode, guys. I believe that, this is in reference to Killing Joke, I believe the method of inserting one coloured object into a black and white film goes at least as far back as 1925. In Battleship Potemkin, when the revolting Imperial Russian sailors succeeded in taking command of the ship, they raised a red flag, and every frame of it was hand-painted red to make it stand out.
Nice.
There we go. Didn't even know that. Sincerely, David. Thank you, David, for getting in touch. And yeah, I mean, we did do Killing Joke by Alan Moore. I probably want to do more Alan Moore on the show, actually. I always say...
More. How do you like it? You know the lad. Yeah.
I've got this book from the library that people might be aware of, Alan Moore Storyteller. It's a giant hardcover book. It's like a sort of coffee table history of the guy, so many photos and frames of the comic. I'm just looking through it now. And it's mind-blowing. Like, when you go through it, you go everywhere from the early Doctor Who Future Shocks weird stuff he was doing in the Northampton Arts Lab, to, like, From Hell, to, like, Watchmen, to, like, V for Vendetta, like, Swamp Thing, Lost Girls, Tom Strong. Like, the guy has had so many good series.
Yeah, definitely.
So many.
I think he's quite he piques your interest quite a lot because he's not a sellout, and he's had so many of his works adapted for cinema, video games, animated movies, and the guy, he never seems like, he just doesn't seem to like them. There's always that intrigue to it. I think it was always quite nice. Recently I did a Shining podcast, and it's kind of nice to discuss how the adaptation differs from the original work. And in the same way that Stephen King hated the Shining, right. It's the same way that Alan Moore hates everything, especially if it's got his name on it.
And shout out Bent Legs as well on that podcast. Awesome guy. Final email from Eric. who is a genuine gracious friend of the show. He says, nice Killing Joke podcast. Thank you, Eric. Glad you mentioned Camelot 3000, which was, of course, I believe Brian Bolander drew that beforehand, and it was like a sort of early prototype, huge deal in long narrative. It was about like the Knights of Camelot going into the future, which is just, irresistible. And he talks about how it was really groundbreaking that in DC started introducing gay characters in the 80s. The Legion of Superheroes soon after began hinting about shrinking Violet and Lightning Lass's relationship.
Yeah.
Didn't know that, but I'm sure more knew that. And,
he obviously did.
A lot of people are aware of it. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Eric. And we get to issue 3, Def, and I mean, like, personal circumstances aside, just as a narrative, you read the first 2. You're anticipating this highly, were you, as you dug in?
No. And that's why it was pushed back a week, this episode. I really did. I'm always an episode 4 kind of guy. I'm always like, right. Episode 4's when it gets good. I think that's why George Lucas probably started at episode 4. So I'm kind of holding off where all the pieces are in place, and then you start to see the bigger picture, whereas introductory chapters always kind of stumble for me. Episode 3, it's sort of building up, so I was thinking, I'm interested to see how they handle this. It was, I laughed a bit actually when I saw the title of it. It's called Not Victory Nor Defeat. Yeah. And that title kind of sums up how I feel about the run itself. Right. It's not amazing. Sure. It's not terrible. It's just in the middle.
Yeah. And the cover, the smashed bottle of gin, which isn't quite as lyrical or enigmatic, but obviously, we've got to compare it to Watchmen, but those covers are unbelievable. I'm thinking specifically of the John Osterman photo on Mars. I think is one of the most beautiful covers of all time. Incredible cover. But this one of just a smashed gin bottle,
I like it. I think it's the best cover so far, to be honest.
Probably
the famous
so far,
Vite V showing on it. Not only does it symbolise that Vite's everywhere, the fact that it's getting smashed also kind of symbolises that, Ozymandias is against the ropes, which is how we left him last episode issue, whatever. I thought it was a nice picture. The purple as well, it's a nice Watchmen colour. And, the Victory gin is getting smashed because Victory, it ain't on the cards in this episode.
And even the backdrop, just the shadow of the splash on this cracked concrete, and the attention is excellent. The style, for me, I don't know, personally for me, it seems a little too varnished in place, but it is
a little too varnished. You hate Geoff Johns, you'll
Sean Phillips, man.
Slag him off.
I'll give him some, it ain't fade out, man. I mean, let's talk about the other cover, which I saw someone on Reddit said this is one of the most explosive images in the history of DC, and it was kind of right. Batman reading Walter Kovacs's journal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a great image. Definitely could be like a poster or something. To me, it's the most iconic image thus far from the Watchmen redo. Definitely is. Even like we've not had like a Superman iconic issue. It's good to see that Batman and Rorschach are finally colliding in the same universe, and it's interesting.
And where does this rank?
I don't know why he's doing it by candlelight.
No,
the lad's a fucking billionaire.
It's his cave.
Yeah.
It's for the coffee effect. We reflect on his costume as well, his gloves, his cowl. You're obviously a big Batman fan, Def. You know the character very well. How does this rank for you in terms of his costumes?
It's quite good. Yeah, I do like. I always prefer the shorter ears on the cowl, and this is very sort of Dark Knight Returns-y. You can tell it's a younger guy in the suit, but I really do like the suit. It's really nice. Yeah.
It's just kind of I don't know. It's not got the sort of Cthulhu sort of pencil shred to it. It's quite clean.
It's very grounded looking.
It
looks like you could actually get that for Halloween.
And as all the comics begin, as Moore began, as Johns begins, the cover is the first image in some format or the other, and we begin on that. And this is the thing, like a lot of people already, and if you listen to this in the future, it hasn't came out yet. The Han Solo film, which seemingly is going to...
It's horrendous.
Seemingly, let's not talk about the directorial changes, which are mad, and Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but just on a sort of they're explaining everything in this one movie, they're tossing a whole lot of some things you don't need to see, some things you don't need to know about, the
entire Star Wars prequels you don't really need to know about, do you?
Yeah, this scene of Ozymandias and Comedian is a Star Wars prequels of Doomsday Clock. It's fine in of itself. It sort of shows you what happens in some sort of physical way, but none of it's that stirring because, it's the aftermath. It's the shocks that the death of the comedian causes that is the story.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Tom. I thought this opening was really, really good. I think the art's better than the original. And I like that it sets up the fight. It's clear that Comedian's getting his arse handed to him here. And going into the next fight that Ozymandias is the one who's on the back burner. And I think, it does repeat throughout their fight the way this one goes. Ozymandias throws himself out of the window. So he's able to control it much in the same way that the comedian gets thrown out the window. So it's a nice little twist on it. Ozymandias is always someone who's in control of the situation 99% of the time, unless bloody Big Blue Dick's in the room, you know what I mean? He's in control. So to me, it was a nice start. And like I say, I do actually prefer the art of this to the original. You're crossing me off your Christmas card list right now, aren't you? He said Doomsday Clock was better than Watchmen.
It's heresy in some people's eyes, maybe, to say that.
But I don't understand how the comedian doesn't hit the floor and he gets transported.
Yeah, so
because surely there was a body. I was trying to kind of remember whether we actually do see Comedian's body on the street or not.
You see blood being washed away.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was impact,
it does make sense continuity-wise, but it doesn't make sense at all when you think about it for more than 2 seconds.
No, I'm at the moment...
Because someone would have found his body and been like, hey...
Well, he gets buried, that is the catalyst.
Yeah.
So it's clearly something was there, in the sort of Watchmen story, which apparently is the real world that we're supposed to believe. At the moment, I'm watching Dark on Netflix, this sort of German time travel. Really good. I think it's terrible.
Wow, I think it's like a good Stranger Things.
Oh, no, I think it's so...
We're really disagreeing this.
Yeah, we are,
aren't we?
Very gimmicky, and there's no character interaction in it at all. But anyway, that is time-based. And it's kind of... What is it suggesting here? Is there some sort of lost time? Is the true timeline Comedian's death? And what we're seeing now subsequently, his resurrection, is some sort of contradiction? It's not clear... and I don't think it ever will. I don't know if it can satisfyingly be explained, because I don't really care. I think the comedian was dope in Watchmen, but this resurrected dead puppet form, I think his dialogue is flat when he meets Ozzy. I think it's not Comedian, it's Geoff Johns with an eye patch.
Yeah, I think it's fine, to be honest. It's a good way to include the character in the story. It won't get explained. It's just one of those things like the X-Men movies when, I don't know, there's loads of stuff that's happened in the X-Men movies that they've just not explained ever.
Sure.
Like when Professor X come back to life.
Yeah.
Even though he got killed in the third one. Went, oh, you all right, Professor? Yeah, how are you doing? Is that how he talks? Storm. Anyway, they'll go, oh, you all right? What? Didn't see in the last movie, where were you? Oh, just getting back in the swing of things. So it's going to be one of them where they don't explain it. It's just accept it, you stupid comic book reader, and give us your money because it's got Watchmen on the cover.
He wakes up outside this metropolis. He almost drowns. Do you get a Tales of the Black Freighter vibe here with the seagulls?
Really did. Especially with the sea coming in as well. Sure. It's black. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's like a metaphor for in the same way that the guy from the Black Freighter stumbles back on the shore and he's mad and he's not sure of his view of the world. Maybe the comedian's stumbling back onto this shore. It looks similar to his world, but there's differences, and that's what's going to make him a killer. Geoff Johns is a genius.
Dr. Manhattan. is in the building. He's in the frame.
Yeah.
Hello, Blake. He says with that patience of his, and I think the artwork is fantastic, and I think his sort of sea dog comedian here, waking up in a different time zone, is quite effective. Does that have to be the button and everything, Def? Is that a very important thing in this story?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Dr. Manhattan drops it for him, so maybe he's showing that he went back and got his button.
Sure.
I really don't know.
Sure.
They don't need to explain it.
Why would Dr. Manhattan save Comedian's life at this point? Surely he didn't really care about life? I don't really... So Marionette makes him care about life because she has a baby in her?
Because he was his mate, wasn't he? They used to, used to go to them bars together in Vietnam.
But, Manhattan was horrified by what he saw Comedian do. It's
no, now he wasn't. He was having a laugh with the lad.
It changed him irrevocably, I think.
No, it didn't.
Look,
we've all had a drink before. We've all shot a woman carrying our unborn son, yeah? Boys will be boys. Just let the lad be.
I've got a lot of respect for the next page 5, the top, where we see the fight wordlessly. And they almost look like toys in the frame. It's kind of hard to explain. They don't really have a humanity to them because it's kind of fuzzed out behind glass. But I love it. I really think it's great.
It's nice how it's just silent and you can see the kicks and the punches. This would be great as a movie.
Yeah.
It just has a very cinematic feel to it. You're looking at the fight from afar, and then just as you're getting close enough, the glass smashes. And that's when the dialogue comes into play. I can just imagine that being in a film, just starting off a movie. And as soon as the glass cracks, that's when all the sound kind of envelops the audience. But yeah, I really like it.
And Comedian said strong glass, shame would have been poetic, which is fine. But to be honest with you, Def,
a bit on the nose, isn't it?
I think Alan Moore would have left that page blank and just Ozzy looking at a crack in a glass is enough. That's absolutely enough. It's across his face, blah blah blah. We've got the smiley face in the background. It's staged so well. But I think him just saying that is just all a bit. And then Comedian just bleeding the point dry. I always had Comedian as quite pithy. He wasn't like this. He knew how to land jokes, I think.
Yeah, he was always making jokes, even when they were talking about nuclear war and stuff.
Yeah, the Crime Busters meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was raping that woman,
just doing his bits and bobs.
Stuff.
Everyone killing themselves, laughing, watching him going, hey, what's he up to now?
And Ozymandias, okay, so you're face-to-face with a Comedian. I know you killed this guy in some alternate future, but whatever, he's quite deadly. Turn off the lights. I guess it works.
Yeah, I don't know why the lights is a big light bulb on the control panel. It's like that thing in the all those 60s movies when when the hero would run over to the control panel and there'd be a big button that said power and he would turn that off, but I don't know. It's just it is a nice fight though.
Yeah, it's a long fight and it's a padded fight, I think. And I think we've already had padding in the comic. I think the intro, as cool as it is, I don't think forwards the plot in any real way. And I think it just kind of, I'm still waiting for things to happen to these characters compellingly. I think the pieces are being assembled. It's the third issue, blah, blah, blah. But I just think the intricacies are slightly missing. They have this shootout on the glass, this indestructible plot device glass that just kind of,
Blake should have got some in his apartment. That would have been a very short story.
Yeah, this double glazed tail. You've got to have people bleeding from around the eye area because it's Watchmen. So we see Ozzy, wounded on his brow. It bleeds, and he kind of flips up out of there, right?
Yeah, which I think's nice because it mirrors the Comedian doing it. It's nice, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know what the point in the fight was. The thing about Watchmen originally was I don't think there's any real fighting in it.
No.
It starts off with a fight, but there's no other battle that really springs to mind that I can think of. Maybe towards the end when the group take on Ozymandias at
Yeah, Rorschach in the row house building, I guess, with the police to a certain extent, but
but there's not major fights in it, whereas this seems kind of besides the point. I don't think these two characters would immediately start fighting if they met one another. I think comedian would kind of hold a gun at him and sort of talk to him, but yeah, you don't know, do you? Instead, he just shows up and shoots Lex Luthor. A laugh.
Yeah, Lex is
like it's not as funny as it used to be. Comedian used to be a lot funnier than this.
Yeah. It is just this thing that just the scene replays or the scene happens for action, as you say. There should have been some sort of dialogue between the two of them, but yeah, we get Ozzy sort of, the superhero. He's not a superhero, but he's sort of a peak human, isn't he? Flipping off the roof, doing somersaults, etc. But what he lands on, isn't enough to carry his weight. He snaps, he falls, through a hotel canopy with his cat, who I think he stole the intrinsic field off, but the cat's still alive, and it's a kind of. It's page 9 and not much has gone down, really. We've had some interactions here, but still the big interactions we're waiting for. We get to one of them here, though, Death. Your main man, Bruce, him and Rorschach, the first kind of proper scene between these guys. Yeah,
it's nice. I did really enjoy this, to be honest. I like how Rorschach's sort of just talking about eating breakfast. He's saying he could be killed or collect. It's nice the way they've got broken language, and it sort of shows the fractured psyche of Rorschach, and just the iconography of it's really nice. They talk about the fork. He goes to put his hand in his pocket and he says, "Oh no, that's a fork, wrong pocket," and then pulls the. It's just a nice little comedic thing.
Yeah. Bat's face, right?
Batman's sort of puzzled at him. Yeah. But he's sort of accepting as well. He doesn't know how this guy managed to get into the Batcave. I don't know how the guy managed to get in the Batcave. He just sort of stumbled in. But yeah, no worries. We'll overlook that.
How in your experience of reading Batman comics, you've read a lot of Batman comics, how impregnable of a fortress is the Batcave?
Look, really impregnable. Yeah. Like, even the river up to it is like laced with mines and stuff.
Wow,
so
shit.
Boats
Mine
can
river.
Get up there.
Jesus
Mine
Christ.
River. Joker had to swim up there once. It's just, you wouldn't get in. It's all like voice activated in fake stairways, and you've got to like know the password, and you can't even walk in if you're the postman. You know what I mean? Like Bruce is down and he's ordering candles off Amazon Prime because he keeps using them to read books. And not even the postman's getting in, and he knows him on first name basis.
Yeah.
So that's how impregnable it is.
He gets given the journal, the Kovacs
Although
journal.
Robin in Batman Forever did like cartwheel into it.
Oh wow!
So yeah, you just never know.
Maybe if he, so yeah, he gets given the journal, which we've kind of established through the earlier image, which is a huge moment, genuinely, regardless of what stories are in. It's really cool to see. We're in Killing Joke territory, which we just visited on the show. Check out
which was lucky. It seems like every time we do something in the show, it pops up later down the line. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't have recognised all this if we hadn't just done Killing Joke.
No. And like it's kind of like, it's Killing Joke from the background, you can sort of recognise it anyway, but Killing Joke in the sense of the clown in the glass cabinet that, pictures heavily within the Alan Moore originals, so it does have direct references there. And we're with two characters, with two new characters. Issue 3 now. Have they grown on you?
No, but they do in this issue.
Okay.
They do. I know you hated them because you kind of we talked about this before the show, but by now I was like, they're all right. Just let them be. They're sort of, this chapter itself sort of sums up like modern comic book audiences. They're all idiots. They're stumbling through these pictures of like famous things from comics. It's not massively impacting them, but it's just, they're enjoying being there. Mm-hmm. So that's probably why Doomsday Clock's getting like 10 out of 10 and stuff. Yeah. Even though Geoff Johns clearly wrote this section saying that all comic book readers who've been reading comics for less than 2 years are complete morons, and all comic book listeners who listen to this show who've been reading comics for less than 2 years are also complete morons. What, you weren't there at the comic book store the day that they released Watchmen issue 1? You're pathetic.
We get Batman again here with Rorschach in a fun panel, if purely in terms of composition.
It's a bit slapstick.
Very much so.
Interaction, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're always busted. They're like a double act.
It's 9-panel grid, which we love to see here. This is page 12. The first 6 panels, Batman is pretty much exclusively in one stance. Expressions changing minor behind him. Rorschach is equally Reggie behaving that way. And, then there is some direct kind of, as you say, slapstick interaction. What page are you on for? That's all. It's been a long day, which is kind of, an odd confession from Master Wayne.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's quite funny. It's good that they're like subverting the two darkest characters of the universes into like this little joke thing. They've finally found each other. When they're going to go on stage, Tom, they need to team up with a Joker. They'd have a banging show.
That would be good. Some sort of variety act would work. And yeah, they sort of, that's it really. There's not too much revelations there. We have some more isms, some ding-ding juxtapositions, him looking at his hand, and then, we're learning more about, superhero worlds, the public always pretty much hates the superhero, so it's a given here, everyone's tense, local law enforcement. And we get this element that, okay, here's why I hate modern comics. I hate events. I hate sort of laboriously laid out stories of kind of things that aren't quite explained that become huge later on. I.e., this old man, his grandson, he was in Justice League of America, this guy, or something like that, Mr. Thunder?
Yeah, so Mr. Thunder, Rebirth, the issue 1 that I told you to read, Tom.
Need to get through
but now
it,
you're slagging it off that you don't understand this. So Mr. Thunder was featured in that. He's basically in a nursing home, and he said something. I have got the notes down here. He said he needed to find the Justice Society, and that he was sorry for what he'd done.
Right.
That was pretty much the summary of his appearance in Rebirth. So I don't know what it's going to tie into this, but yeah, it's nice to know that the guy's regretful, and he clearly is. He looks very depressed in this issue.
The Superman theory, the meta-humans, all these grab words for this world that Johns is kind of half building. Like, I don't know, it's just all quite samey personally, but it's fine.
The problem when things are done in the the central universe is you can't set something in stone, because someone down the line might want to change it, or they might dig themselves into a hole that completely ruins like the continuity, and they've got to go back and redo it all. And it's very clear that Johns is sort of dipping his toe here. He's not going all out with it. He's pulling his punches, you know what I mean? Whereas in something like Injustice, which is an absolutely brilliant comic, they're given free reign over what they do with all of the characters, and it makes it a lot more interesting. Whereas this being in the main universe, they've kind of got to hold back, because you never know what they're going to do that could fuck everything up, Tom. Well, you could have another Barbara Gordon in a wheelchair on your hands, you know what I mean?
Still some of the deadliest puns ever when Joker shoots her. Like, the whole book puns, man. I've really stuck with me after I reviewed that. I've always thought about that. Shout out Alan Moore. Obviously, I'm always shouting out Alan Moore. I'm currently reading the Bo Jeffrey saga, which is kind of his Coronation Street impression from the 80s with Steve Parkhouse. So definitely shout out Alan Moore.
We're all going to try and get Alan Moore on the show at some point.
One day.
But I'm kind of worried if he listens to any of this, he'll think, no, fuck that lad sounds like a psychopath. And that other one, Tom, sounds even bigger of a psychopath.
Right. Well, talking of psychopathic moves, I know you're not a fan of Black Freighter. I understand that. I'm not a huge fan myself.
It's like the update in it.
Oh,
this is the
fuck
update
off,
of it.
the adjournment. Okay, you could have written something good, but no, you wrote this kind of stale, uninteresting. Like, there's no spin here. It's not noirish. It's kind of boorish.
Yeah, and it's really like I don't like the Black Freighter, so it would be the first thing I would cut from the comic. And I don't know why. Like, do a lot of people like the Black Freighter? I know Eric said that it took him 35 years, but eventually he did like it. Mm-hmm. Do people in general like it? Because it's not something I would rehash.
No, it got made as a movie extra on the DVD, so maybe there was some sort of record. But obviously it's part of the book, it's always going to get a reaction. But we have the German here.
Yeah, and they're sort of rehashing things here because they've got Rex Mason, Kirk Langstrom, and Lady Clayface.
Right.
Who she's a Silver Age villain, very old comic book character. So it's good to see her return, even if it's very minor. And it's nice that they're tying this Silver Age thing into this old television program. But I'm more interested in the news that was going on. So we did just kind of dance over this, but it does actually explain what the Superman theory is. Which is asking why 97% of the world's superheroes are American. And I think that's pointing towards Dr. Manhattan creating superheroes.
Right.
They do blame the US government experimenting on people, but it's probably Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
But all that's derailed in favor of this black and white TV show murder mystery thing.
Yeah, that is. It doesn't really tell an engaging story, and just I don't know. Tales of the Black Freighter, it allowed more to stretch a muscle that he was already quite good at. These sort of faux horror narratives, and he's brilliant at that. Good to see Alfred actually butlering in this next sequence.
Yeah, he loves to buttle, that lad. He's getting tea. He's washing the clothes.
Yeah.
He's he's earning his wage.
Mm-hmm.
He does 120 hours a week, this lad. So it's good to see that he's always on the ball.
Yeah, and Reggie takes off his mask, and we see him for the first time.
Yeah. What did you think? Because I was literally like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yeah, who is it?
I really don't know.
It's no character I can think of.
Yeah, we do kind of get a flashback for him where he sees the alien warp into Manhattan. So it's obvious that he was there, but I have no idea. Like, from his perspective, he was driving a car and then it just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't need to be anyone special.
Sure.
It's like Ray's parents, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sick of everyone being the chosen one.
Yes.
But they did kind of tease this out for 3 issues, and it was no one.
Yeah. And they can't really answer it as being someone, really, I think. I can't really see how that's going to be retconned.
And it's the first time that a black person's taken something off a white guy. Normally it's white people stealing all the stuff from black people. So, yeah. But to me, it just seems like a very shallow way to get a black character into the story. Like, I want a video that I've just done, Tom. I'm going to promote my own shit right now.
Let's go.
Basically, Idris Elba said that James Bond, they should do something different. They should make it a woman, or they should make it a black guy. And I don't think that's right. Not because I'm a massive racist, Tom. I just think that black people and women, they deserve their own iconic characters. It kind of devalues it for me when someone if they do a gender swap or a race swap. I'd much rather see an iconic character created that was black or female, because then you can't kind of negatively take away anything from it. You can't be like, oh, well, it used to be a white guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Black Panther's coming out next month. I'm so hyped for it. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. And it's almost completely a black cast.
Let's go.
And it's got so much going for it. That
Michael B. Jordan, man, what a legend.
Exactly. Like, imagine if they'd already been a White Panther movie.
Where's Wallace?
It would cheapen it. You know what I mean? It would kind of be like, oh well, black people can only do stuff if a white person opens the door for them. You know what I mean? Like, same with Wonder Woman. If Wonder Woman had been a man, I don't know. Well, you can get operations these days anyway. All those female activists, feminists and that, who went crazy for the movie, would they have as much pride in it? Because, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of, I don't know, it just seems a very cheap way to do it. I'd much rather they brought a new black character in that was just completely original, instead of being like, oh, well, this guy used to be white, but we'll do something edgy, we'll try and make him black. I mean, I don't know how black people feel about it, to be honest. They might be over the moon seeing a black Rorschach in, but I would just rather a new character was created, not being like, oh, you're ruining my favourite white characters. I just think that they deserve their own characters, and that's why, you know, I'm really excited for Black Panther. I think it's going to really, really do something amazing. Not just film-wise, like for the industry as a whole. I think it's going to show that black superheroes deserve their place. Whereas Johns is just like, no, just change the colour of his skin. Just do Rorschach again, but make him black.
Raw black, as we said before.
Yeah, you racist.
He, as he scrubs his head, something quite gruesome and quite symbolic happens where he's bleeding heavily. You know, it's pouring down his face like a pour we've seen many times before, you know, echoed throughout these books. And as he's doing that, he's pointing out the differences he's feeling being in this mansion from where he grew up, you know, that sort of division. We go in and out. We learn a little bit more of the, you know, the adjournment, but again, it's some sort of chess game, some sort of dichotomy between good and evil spilled out in sort of, I don't know, I think if Moore had his hands on this, it would have been a bit more intriguing. Yeah,
it feels more disjointed as well, whereas Moore was interweaving the two storylines together perfectly as one, whereas this just seems kind of, to be honest, Tom, I've got absolutely no idea what happened in this second because I just don't remember it at all.
No, me neither.
I just don't remember it, Tom.
I don't blame you.
It just went over my head.
And one of the worst things about it, it's not interesting, and then you have the old couple arguing about it as well, and it's kind of like you don't care about seeing this. It's cool.
They spent more time on this than they did explaining how the comedian got to the Earth. You know what I mean, Tom?
And I like that, you know, in a club here we see Stuart Lee, who I don't know if I'm reading too far into this, but I know that Stuart Lee and Alan Moore are friends. I know that Alan Moore has been interviewed by Stuart Lee, on like I think it's like a live show or something like that. It's on YouTube. It's really cool. Is him getting hit a hair more?
Yeah, if it is that, then yeah. I didn't know who Stuart Lee was, but yeah, that's how I would take it.
Yeah.
Because it's in the same way that the bottle got smashed at the start. It's very similar the way that the bottle gets smashed off his head. So yeah, it's probably like, oh fuck yous hate you. I mean, next issue there'll probably be two podcasters getting shot with an invisible gun. You know what I mean? Be like, that's what I think about yous.
We learn this is Joker's turf. You know, he wouldn't want from these two, you know, the kind of makeup that they're wearing. The boss doesn't like it. You know, we learn that this is his crew. A fight kicks off, and we learn that they have invisible weapons.
I loved it, Tom. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking loved it. I thought that's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. Because we were the first episode. We're like, oh, why is everyone like scared of the mime? He's just pointing his finger at people and stuff. And just to see him point his finger, and then it like blows the back of that guy's head off.
Yeah,
liked it, Tom. And then you see it from the angle. It's a bit like the Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade.
Sure.
When he's walking over that invisible bridge, and then the camera pans a bit to another angle, and you can just see the light catch it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a nice reveal.
Yeah, Jehovah. And the paneling is good, and her face is good as well. Stern, looking forward, resolute, and you know, it's a bloody comic. It's not gruesome, but it does have its violence. You know, it has another big fight similar to Ozzy's tumble. You need to have these motions in the comic, and yeah, we get to see the gun more and more as the scenes play out. You can kind of make out where they are. I do really like this sequence where she pulls out the knife, or I guess the sort of the rope or whatever she has, and she goes towards...
It's like a wire, isn't it?
It's like a wire thing. And, you see the hand, you see the face being cut open. Like, the art is pretty cool, actually. She cuts the gun in half, the barrel, the hand. It's a barrage. Her going for the eyes. You've got pretty eyes, and the way she looks at you with those eyes, and the rope tearing across. It's really effective, isn't it?
Yeah, and this really won me round to the characters. I was thinking, they've done it. These guys, they're good. They want to go find the Joker, so it's nice that the three groups are kind of coming together of Ozymandias and Lex Luthor, Batman and Rorschach, and now Mime and Marionette, and the Joker and Harley Quinn. It's nice that they're sort of naturally gravitating to one another. I just hope the Mime doesn't put that gun down somewhere and forget about it, Tom?
Right.
It's invisible.
I'm quite a big fan of the markings that cause the supposed blindness here, turning into the plane on the bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's just good. And Johns he's winning his round at this point. Like, I really did like the issue. I'm not gonna spoil how I felt at the end because the last fucking page ruined everything. But yeah, enjoying it. All the characters are kind of getting their moment, and they work better as separate groups.
Yeah,
I didn't like when they were all huddled together and Archie.
Sure.
Going off and doing their own thing. They're allowed to expand on their own dynamics, and it works a lot better.
And I mean, Limburg whiskey, of course, you think of the Limburg baby kidnapping, in 1932, which was kind of famous. We kidnapped one of the richest men in the US, I believe. So it's kind of interesting. Obviously, they're looking for their child as well. So it's a little bit on the nose again, but a little bit more subtle as well.
That's nice, Tom. If Alan Moore did that, you'd be like, oh, fucking hell, I'm buying your autobiography now.
He probably did something more obscure than Limburg, but no, you're right. It is, it's a
nice,
fair tribute. We pull out, we have the Power Rangers, reveal, all the corpses strewn amongst them, which is fine. We have
what Power Rangers episode did that happen in?
I don't know. I think Zordon was involved, but
right.
These huge events. Yet again, not only do they have these ancillary characters that become important later on, they have news reports, which I guess Moore had as well to a certain extent. But they are very useful. There are these parallels being drawn with the world we're seeing right now. These detectors in airports, this strict immigration. Metagene detectors on their own populace. All these different things that we're finding out about. We get a lot of information, actually. We see the old couple arguing over the remote for the adjournment, played against the granddad, looking in the window. It could work better. I see what it's trying to do, but I don't think any of the images stir me as such.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just the way it's being drawn that they don't connect as well as they could do. Like, Gibbons would have matched these images up a lot better, I feel. But yeah, I'm still getting the message.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like this feels like fan fiction anymore. I do feel like it feels like a proper sequel. But yeah, just slight missteps, but nothing that is angering me.
And we get to see the squid attack from a different angle here. With I guess Reggie's memory as a taxi driver. So again, it's like the only taxi driver we really know is the lesbian, I think. She's one of the only ones that's actually played out to a certain character level. So, he learns about this, and then we see a very Afflecky Bruce staring at him. Yeah,
I like the little Bubastis.
Sure.
It's completely skipped my air freshener.
Yeah.
No, I can't believe I forgot that. And the V on the steering wheel showing that bite again is he's in everything. But yeah, the eventual thing that comes from this situation really annoyed me. But yeah, it's cool to just see Batman very straight to the point. He's like, it's okay, you're safe. You slept for almost 24 hours. I read your book.
Yeah.
And when he says, I know where Dr. Manhattan is, I was like, oh shit, it's going to kick off.
Yeah. That was a kind of false lead there and a bit disappointing for his benefit. He found temporal anomalies in Arkham Asylum. Well, of course, And yeah, we see the adjournment as well playing on the little TV when he passes by, and we get a cool bit of Batman stuff, like when he hops on the back of the van and his silhouette struck, and him and this Rorschach teaming up. But Def, I guess you're not a fan of how this issue concludes.
Well, I laughed at the little gun thing, the grappling hook that Batman pulls out, and then Rorschach pulls us out and kind of at it. It's a bit of a dick joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was on board at this point. But then when Batman, he leads him into this cell in Arkham, and then he closes the door on him, and he's like, "This is where you belong. Ha ha ha, gotcha. Which is, it's completely stupid. Batman wouldn't do that at all.
No.
I don't know why. Like, first off, he'd be fucking fuming because the guy knows where the Batcave is, that he laced that with mines to protect it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's not letting this guy go to an insane asylum where he can blab to all of Batman's villains in the next cell. Like, oh yeah, the Batcave, it's in Wayne Manor. He's not doing that. And he doesn't. Batman doesn't just dump people in Arkham then walk out. Like he literally just dumps them. And he's like, "It's your problem now, Warden." Yeah, and it's just the urgency's gone. Like when they said, "I know where Dr. Manhattan is," I was like, "Oh shit, and it just completely derails that for the sake of it. Like, why did Batman have Rorschach asleep in his house for 24 hours and not do it then?
Yeah.
And why is he waited to wake him up, sneak him in somewhere? The lad's on the clock. He's out. Mr. Freeze could be, killing Mr. Frosty, the ice cream van man. You know what I mean? Instead, he's playing this little game with Rorschach to lead him into a cell. It doesn't make any sense. And it just, in general, one of my biggest problems with comics is that every issue has to end on a cliffhanger, no matter how little sense it makes, how true to the character it is. They always have to end it like, oh, wow, how are they going? It harkens back to the 1966 Batman show when they used to end it every episode where they'd be in a death trap and they'd be like, tune in next time, viewers.
Sure.
It's just stupid. And this isn't going to hold any weight in the comic overall. Yeah. It's going to be out in 10 minutes. I mean, we all know Arkham Asylum has a revolving door policy anyway, so he's not staying in there for long.
No.
It just ruins the build-up and the relationship that the two are building.
Yes.
Like, the two had really good chemistry together. It just completely ruins it, Tom. And it doesn't make any sense, and it's not what Batman would do.
No.
I'm annoyed, Tom.
Is this kind of a sort of metaphor for how DC characters will treat sort of the Watchmen characters, or
maybe like, you guys suck, we should have never brought you back?
And we get, of course, a quote at the end because it's a Watchmen parody to a certain extent. Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much because they live in a grey twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Does that stir you?
I don't know. No, not at all. I don't know what it means into, like, the story.
No, and there is this addendum, as there always is, which is always kind of... it's basically the backup piece of text. It's a Hollywood tabloid story about the murder of Carver Coleman and his life. In sidebar notes, we learn about the birth of Rita Farr, a conspiracy in the death of Sergeant Rock, and reference to John Law and Libby Lawrence, who are Justice Society members Tarantula and Liberty Bell. So nothing really that impinges on the plot that we've read so far, but, more sort of background. I think all the Watchmen background stuff, so I think maybe Dan Dreiberg's Owl Notes are probably the most barren in the whole book, but pretty much all of them I think are really cool, especially the Under the Hood stuff I love. And, there's some excellent writing there. But, I mean, all in all, Def, you enjoyed issue 3, right?
Yeah, sort of. It's just the ending was so bad that it just completely took me out of the book. And once again, I was really getting on board with the story, and just to have that ending completely derail it, because I know exactly how it's going to play out. Batman's going to realise he made a mistake when something bad happens, like Dr. Manhattan returns or something, and he's got to go back to Arkham to get him out, but someone's already went back and got him or some shit. And it's just dragging it out, and it's not intelligent. It's not an intelligent move on Batman's behalf. He would never play it like that. And Moore, all of his characters he treated with respect, and he didn't make them idiots. They weren't like horror movie characters that split up. You know what I mean? They weren't doing dumb things. Just ruined it for me a bit.
Yeah.
What about you, Tom? You haven't really talked about what you thought of the ending.
The ending, I totally agree with you in the sense that it's going to be reversible, that it feels very much a sort of, a TV ending that doesn't really mean anything, because, these plots are interwoven so delicately. You're right, there is a relationship at stake here, a friendship burgeoning, and I think it just sort of stamps on the embers before they get a chance to light, and I don't really like it. It doesn't really push the plot forward that much, There's some nice drawing in it, I think. I like him behind the bars, and, I think both of them fit the profile well, but, all in all, nothing too striking for me. In general, I'm not really a fan of this stuff, and I think the problem is because I'm just a fucking Alan Moore junkie at the moment. It's not as good as Tom Strong, I'm afraid. It's not as good as Tom Strong or From Hell, personally, for me. But, shout out to Doomsday Clock. Please get in touch with us, watchingthewatchmenpod@gmail.com. What do you think of the show? Give us some feedback on episodes we've done, including this one, or any of the Watchmen stuff, or stuff we're going to get into, future coming episodes. Let us know on there. Def, your YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's just youtube.com/Deffinition 1988, I think. Or if not, just Deffinition. Look, mate, no one cares anymore.
It's all good,
Let's be honest.
Well,
we're all just going to die, and there's nothing after it. So.
But no, Doomsday Clock is coming, man. It could turn it round.
I don't want it to, Tom. I just want, and I tell you what, when this goes bi-monthly, fucking hell, mate.
Yeah, it's going to be...
It's going to suck the life out of me.
It's going to be long. And I was reading online, because I don't really know the whole DC universe in general, but they were saying that because this series ends a year in time of the DC current timeline, that it being late affects a lot of other things, because, it delays things, certain plot things they want to get to.
Yeah, so. Which is annoying, like, when they do these crossover stories, because it just fucks up, like, the writing so much. Like, I'm reviewing a lot of New 52 graphic novels for my website, definition.co.uk.
Let's go.
And there's a big crossover event in the New 52 universe, round about volume 5 of every graphic novel. And it just... You can see, like, writers just have to stop their story in the middle of it and tie into this crossover, and it's not part of the main plot, so it's not as interesting, and you just get this wash of mediocre stories. And honestly, like, every volume 5 in the New 52 is crap. It's like just rubbish, because they have to tie in and fit around this main comic book storyline. It's just not very good, and I'm really hoping this doesn't do it, because it has the potential to completely derail Rebirth, which has been good to great so far. So yeah. Okay.
Well, as I said before, please get in touch, please comment, please share. Do appreciate everyone listening to the show. And getting in touch with us and enjoying us going through. It makes it all worth it, Def. Even if I have to read this, that we can do this episode, and that people can dig it as well. Hopefully,
they forget about life for a while, don't they, Tom?
Yeah, exactly.
They love it.
And
thanks for listening, guys.
We'll be back soon. We'll be doing Watchmen next.
We'll be back 3 times a month at this rate, and then the TV show will come out, and I'll be doing it every day.
Then we'll do the iPhone game, and so we'll get to that. But next up is Watchmen. That's what we're going to be covering next, and then we need to just sort of get cracking on that series. Maybe do a few. Appreciate all you guys listening as well, and we'll get to that series. Def, it's been a pleasure as ever, man.
Yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you. It's a good night from me.
All right, it's a good night from Kwei.
Yes.